house because he was wanting his own little companion and get on with his own story, so that was what was going on. What I remember, and it's a very strong memory in here, which was that I had to make the decision, shall I stay or shall I go? And I decided I'd go with Mike. And that was a big thing, you know, to be asked, do you want to stay or do you want to go? That was a big thing for me to make this decision. So that's what I remember. They say that they asked us both to go, but I think they asked Mike, they said to Mike, well, you know, it's time, because the companions only have a lifespan of so much, and then it's time to move on. And Fraser the cuckoo had come in anyway. I love calling him a cuckoo. I'm getting my own back after these years. I love him really. So, but I tell you one thing, and then you do see it. Patrick was very upset to lose us, because we had been his true companions, because we had supported him through his very difficult time. By the time we'd done the Faceless Ones, he was already, the ratings were like this, and he'd been accepted as the Doctor, and everybody was in it, all was well, and he could go off and have his life as the Doctor. But we had seen him through thick and thin. And one of the things that we used to do was, we would, after rehearsals, we'd go to my favourite pub called Finch's in the Fulham Road, and we'd go and have a pint. And what he used to call is a reality check. When you know, because Michael Praise was so beautiful, he was so grounded. And Patrick would be saying, oh God, you know, an innocent, and where do we, and Michael would just say, don't let the buckets get you down, darling. Have another pint. So that was his reality check, and he really needed it. And so he loved us very much. Somebody's doing this, so I think that's
well, we've got one piece of business we have to take care of before we finish, and that's, we have a copy here of Doctor Who and the Cybermen, read by, somebody called Annie Waters, with somebody else, with Nicholas Briggs doing the voice of the Cybermen.
I'm sorry, can you listen? Finally after this, we'll talk more about it, because I can really answer.
And what we're going to do is, we're going to auction this off right now, and you're going to sign it, and anybody else who's here, who's a guest, will be able to sign it as well. Now, these usually retail for about £10, I think. So I think, given that it's coming from you, it's by you, I think we should basically start at cover value. So we're going to ask for £10. £10 there in the middle. 15. Any advance on 15? Do we have 20? Do we have 20? 20. We have 20. The gentleman who asked a question earlier at the back. Do we have 25? Do we have 25 in the room? We do have 25 in the room, the gentleman with the fetching hat at the back. Do we have 30 in the room? Do we have 30 in the room? We've got 25 at the back going once, going for a second time. The attention is rising. Do we have 35 in the room? For the gentleman at the back going once, going twice. We've got 35 for the gentleman with the hat, and it's 40. Going once. It's Erica?
St John's Hospice.
Thank you. St John's Hospice is the chosen charity. There we go. That's where the money's going. So for 35, do we have 40? Going once. Going twice. Sold to the gentleman with the hat. Give him a round of applause. You're going to go and get the money, are you? Right, that would be my missus giving the money there. And that's it. You're welcome. And give.
I got change.
Give this lady a big round of applause.
John Nathan Turner made us sign, actually, so we haven't. No, we haven't. And it's absolutely joyous because we haven't seen each other. I haven't seen either of these two people since we left the tent at Elstree or whatever it was, and it's absolutely joyous because it was one of the best gigs that I ever had doing Doctor Who. So it's fabulous to see everybody and be here. Thank you.
To be honest, we never would have dreamed we'd be here 25 years later, because the main thing about Doctor Who in those days was we were just trying to get it done. We were always under the gun. Everything was done at the last minute without enough money, without enough time. It was just a desperate dash to get through the episode, to get through the story, to get to the end of the series, and we collapsed and we started doing it again. We never looked ahead, even as far as the next season, let alone 25 years. But it's nice to be here.
In fact, I'm just going to look you initially, Andrew. Obviously, the genesis of the story will start with yourself, with the writer, and why. So, where did it start with you?
Well, the thing was, we got Stephen on for Paradise Towers, and he did a really good job, and John was very happy with it. So when we were looking for next season, the first thing he said was, let's have Stephen again, because it was somebody we could both agree about. And he said, John said, I've got this great story for you. Great title, it's the greatest show in the galaxy. My heart just sang. What a terrible camp story title. But you see, I thought, well, you know, it's a title, we can work with it. And also it gave us a starting point. It instantly set it in a kind of, you know, a show or a fairground or a circus setting. And the great thing about those is that they can be really undermined and really scary and creepy. So when I went over it with Stephen, we thought, great, we can do something with this title.
And I suppose, Sophie, you being one of the regulars, you were sort of next on board. What do you remember about sort of the script coming through the door and your reaction?
I think my main memory was, as Andrew was just saying, that it was always such a scramble to get these things done. And so really, I was just like reading the script quickly. Oh yeah, okay, clowns. Ace is scared. All right, let's do it. And then go into the read through. And this one in particular was a scramble because it nearly never got made, which we never realised. I mean, JNT was fantastic at being the producer and keeping that sort of stuff away from us. That was his job. That was his job, to protect us and to ensure that he had this group of people who were all going to produce the goods.
Because when I said no, I'm not surprised to be here, I actually meant that, because in a way the whole show was so full of surprises and unexpected circumstances. John put together a very eclectic mix of people you wouldn't automatically think to put together, and they tended to be people he personally liked and he enjoyed drinking with and having fun with. And so the fact that we're here now, especially given the nature of this show, I don't think is that much of a surprise. Nothing that surprises me anymore. So I just wanted to just justify my no.
Well, that leads into what I was going to ask.
I know.
Chris, about your experience then in the casting. Chris, with the microphone now, you, if I recall rightly, actually screen tested the previous year for Silverstraw.
Well, apparently so.
You could have been standing in the place he was standing.
Yeah, I teach in a university now, and I got an email link from my head of school the other day. Said, I've just found this about you, that apparently you were up for Doctor Who. And I went, well, no, that's the first I've heard. What the fuck? And there was a website, there was a BBC website that had a list of everybody who screen tested for Doctor Who, and I was on it. And I remember going to see JNT, but I don't remember being told that I was going up to be Doctor Who. I mean, I could have been pissed, I suppose, but... it had been known. But apparently I did, and in fact, David Fielder, who I had worked with in another show, it also was one of those people who had been up for Doctor Who at the same time when Sylvester got it. Yeah, so I think I was in it as a sort of sop. You know, well, you didn't get Doctor Who, but you get 4 episodes. So, and I'm very grateful for that. So it's good.
And then Christopher, you sort of knew JNT anyway. You were these people that you sort of came to because you were artifact.
Yeah, I think I've worked with him. He was an AFM and he put on a charity show at the Drury Lane Theatre, I think. He was very pushy and go ahead. He was in his 20s and he put on a show with people like Peter Toole and Richard Bryce, anybody he could sort of get. I can't remember what the circumstances were, but I was in that, so I knew him from that, you know. And I think I knew his boyfriend as well, Gary Downey, because he worked as an assistant choreographer on a show called Tom Brown's School Days, that I was in when I was 19. I shared a dressing room with Russell Grant, and among the boys of rugby school were Keith Chegwin, and who else was it? Oh yes, Simon Le Bon. Boys of rugby school, yes, that's quite an interesting show. Yeah, it was great. Yeah. And then 4 years later I got to play Kane on the BBC, and Keith Chegwin played Abel, so I got to kill him. Yeah, but he came back to life. So there you go. Is that enough? Can I have my money then?
You're being paid. Yeah, that's definitely right. Doctor Who, obviously, very high profile. As I mentioned in the intro, tended to get, and indeed still today, gets very high profile casting. Chris Clifford, you've done. It's confusing having Chris and Chris. So Chris Clifford.
Well, the guy who met me at the hotel this morning said Colin Guard. So if you want to call me Colin, that's fine.
Yeah, but that will confuse Paulie, I think. So yeah. Christopher, you've done, if I remember rightly, Return to Treasure Island, which was quite high profile, not so very long.
Yeah, that sort of put me in the category of, you know, let's get him in Doctor Who sort of. Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, I remember that. Brian Webster doing his usual charity, and it was said that he likes these.
Yeah, I'm jumping. Yeah, it was, but I'm jumping to Brian's defence because a lot of people imagine he's a sort of Oliver Reed drinking. He's very zen. He's not shouty at all. That is a part of him. And he can also be very quiet. And he's scarier when he's quiet than when he's loud.
And then Chris, obviously, you're best known to this day for being Eric in Lovejoy.
That's right, and we've done one season of Lovejoy, which we shot in '85 and had gone out in '86, just the one season. And the director of Doctor Who had been the first assistant on that.
So this would be Alan Waring.
This was Alan Waring. And Alan had been the first assistant on Lovejoy. So the two things came together, me surreptitiously auditioning for Sylvester's part without knowing, and having worked with Alan, and then I got onto it that way. But there'd only been the one series of Lovejoy, which had then been cancelled, and we didn't go again until 1990. So there was a 5-year gap between. So I was playing a 19-year-old, and by the time I finished, I was 35. Because when we did the first series, I was 29 while we were shooting the first series in '85, and then we came back 5 years later, and then we went on for another 5 years. And the script would say, you know, they'd say, oh, we've got this bloody teenager with it. I say, guys, for Christ's sake, we're not going to get away with this anymore. You know, I'm 35. And the bad news about that is, when people see me now, they go, fucking hell, what happened to you? The last time we saw you, you were 19, and now look at you, you fat old bastard. You know? So it's quite difficult to explain to them that actually I was already 20 years older than the character I was playing.
Andrew, coming to this part of the conversation from a production perspective, I hesitate to use the word stunt casting, but casting high-profile figures.
Oliver John was totally about stunt casting. Star fucking is what we used to call it. Well, it can, and and the way that it mostly backfire on you, but not the way you think, not that people were dreadful, but just you'd have somebody who's a huge star doing this really tiny little part, and it could be a big distraction for the audience, for everybody. But what it did mean is that we completely had the casting books open to us. You could get anyone. Like, because Doctor Who always had this wonderful goodwill, and plus John was really good at getting whoever he wanted cast. We had stunning casts, but the only downside, as I say, is that sometimes you'd have people who were just a huge star and they were just in a throwaway part, and think, God, if we'd known we were going to have them when we were writing Man in Pub, we might have given a little more time to it.
Well, I mean, again, as we mentioned earlier, great show, great example. Dame Penny Mount, legend that she was in, more or less a spit McCall.
Exactly. I mean, it's just see Stephen White. We've been pulling his hair out, thinking if only we'd known, we would have created a whole show for her.
And then T.P. McKenna.
Oh, T.P. McKenna's fantastic. I'm a big fan of Beckenbauer's movies, and so I knew him from Straw Dogs. What a fantastic actor.
That's pretty good. When it finally goes into production, you're off in Warmwell Quarry, if I remember rightly.
There was always some quarry.
Somebody will correct me if I've forgotten. It certainly looked hot.
Well, actually, that was one of our better quarries. I seem to remember that. Because you see, what would happen is everybody would sit down in planning meetings with the scripts and say, look, we've got this alien world story. That was part of the problem. I always push for stories set on Earth because you don't have these problems. But as soon as you've got an alien world, you have the problem of how you're going to shoot it to make it look not crap. So every time we went through this, always you'd sit down, you have the scripts, and they say, okay, one thing's for sure, we're not going to shoot it in a quarry. And by the time they actually came to it, they always had a quarry. But luckily, this was a better one than usual. It had more interesting terrain, there was water, and it did look quite like a desert world. And also, Alan did some really nice shooting. He did these shots where Syl would be on one level and so would be walking along a sort of ridge behind him. He really got the best out of it photographically. So it was a superior quarry, but it was just a quarry. I mean, please God, bring CGI.
Well, let's face it, use it again the whole year to survive.
It looked good in survival too, yeah. I think the stuff they did with the stars helped a lot.
So there you are. You're out on location in the sun. You're all young and having fun. Well, I assume you're having fun.
Well, my best quarry story about Sophie was actually in a different quarry where it was bloody freezing. And I went there and I was sitting beside this computer, sort of shivering away, trying to get close to the heat as possible. And Sophie, to keep warm, was running around. It had never occurred to me before that there was this alternate way of warming yourself up to do exercise. She was really a sporty girl. I take my hat off to her for that.
Yeah, this was in Weymouth.
Right.
So the sun's shining and we go down. And this group of people, as I say, it was one of the best gigs I ever had. And the group of people just gelled together in a very profound way. People are often a bit funny about people from showbiz because, we work together for 3 weeks and then 34 years later, darling, how are you? But in fact, it's not a lie or something shallow. It's based on a reality, which is we're talking out there as if the 34 years haven't taken place. It's quite an extraordinary thing. And the group of people gelled, and we knew it at the time. It was just, and we never stopped laughing. I mean, we were just, and by its nature, film and telly, you sit around waiting a lot of the time. So we're all sat in chairs, in lines, watching and just talk. And the relentless anecdotes from T.P. McKenna, in Nottingham, yes. In Nottingham, John Clee played King John and I played the bastard, and we were going, the door wouldn't open and I had to come on through the fireplace, and all this fucking shit. Relentless anecdote telling, and it was hilarious. I mean, it was just sitting there crying with laughter, and then occasionally they'd say, you've got to go and film, and it's like, oh, yeah, hold on, I'm just finishing this anecdote, I'll be with you in a minute. It was just fantastic fun, and so we were, 3 days in Weymouth, out on the lash every night. Going out on the lash with Peggy Mount in Weymouth. You have to be on drugs to come up with that, don't you? You really do.
I remember do you remember the party we had? Another thing JNT was fantastic with was having parties at the end of the shoot. And we had one in Weymouth. The hotel that he kindly booked for us had a sort of large room, a sort of meeting room, and a swimming pool as well. So we used to sort of sit around the pool when we got back from the day's filming. And we had this fantastic party where Jessica Martin took off all the people in the cast and crew, particularly the crew, because we had some funny characters, didn't we? And that was brilliant. And I think you did a song, didn't you? I think you did with Jessica. And it was, I don't know, it was like being on some kind of amazingly fantastic Club 18 to 30 holiday, but you know.
Nicely segues into the next thing I was going to just talk about, because yeah, you had the party and you were all sort of entertaining each other, and a lot of you were musically talented, and Chris, you wrote the song.
I did, yes. This was Jessica's idea. There were a lot of clowns and acrobats and multi-talented sort of cast.
Yeah.
Not typical bunch of actors. And Jessica had heard some of my stuff and she said, why don't you write us a song to do with the show that you can perform? So I did, and I put it on a little 4-track. And Stuart, who's still working with me in the band now, helped me out. And we made a demo, and then Mark Ayres, who's doing the music, sort of followed me around at Elstree. By that time we were there. Said, well, can I produce it for you? So we did it, and then over the politics, didn't get released through the BBC, and it's just been sitting gathering dust for 25 years. And then Mark Ayres phones up and says, we're putting it on the DVD, we're remixing it, we've done our own cover version of it, limited copies available if anyone's interested. We're going to do our own iTunes release. So yeah, after 25 years. So you say, is it surprising? Well, yes, but kind of it isn't. There's something about when Jessica said, hey, why don't you write a song? It felt very meaningful. It's just taken a long time for it to see the light of day. Yeah.
We're nearly out of time, but we've got time to just have a quick chat with the audience. Let's open it up to the audience. Anybody got a question about the greatest show? John at the back.
Yeah, exactly how uncomfortable was that tent? Exactly.
What was it?
How uncomfortable was that tent in the car park?
How comfortable was the tent? The marquee.
Yeah, the marquee. Well, after I did, many years after this, I subsequently ended up directing EastEnders for 10 years, and every time I went into Elstree, I had to drive through the car park where this had been put up. But the great thing about this was the BBC being the BBC, they put the marquee up, but they put it up next to the main entrance. So all the delivery lorries were constantly coming past it all the time. It was like, of all the places at Elstree to choose to put the bloody tent, it was right there by the entrance. So there was Alan Waring going crazy as lorries kept coming past and screaming. And there was a third assistant who shall remain nameless. No, he shall remain nameless. And who was absolutely useless. He was fantastically useless. And everything that he touched turned to shit. It was fantastic. And we were all at Elstree, the sun was shining, and we were sat outside the tent, and he was bringing the tea trolley. And he came out of the restaurant, and there's a speed bump there. And he came up to the speed bump with the trolley, it had little wheels like this. And he came up to the tea trolley, and he couldn't get it over the tea trolley. And I said, hang on a minute, look, here's Duncan with the tea. Jesus. What's he doing? Oh, Christ. He's backing up. Oh, shit. He's backing up. Oh, Christ, he's running at it, back! And he hit it, and the whole thing, the urn, the cups, the whole fucking lot went there. And we were all just sat there, T.P. McKenna, Peggy Mann, Eric, crying with laughter. I mean, we weren't laughing for long because we didn't get any tea. But it was hilarious. And it was yet another thing, as Sophie was saying, because everything went wrong, it just brought the cast together. Because it was this bloke it was like Mr. Bean was the third assistant. It was hilarious. Every day, stories like that would happen.
Can I just have one very quick thing? I was a mate of Richard Gibson's, who played Herr Flick in Hello, Hello. They were shooting that there at the time, and EastEnders. And Richard's only real ambition in life was to get onto the set of EastEnders in his full Herr Flick uniform, in the background, and get shot. sort of soft focus without anybody noticing. And I was chatting with him, he said, hang on a minute, I think this is my chance. Jumping in. And the AFM was having to haul him off. He'd been on this for weeks.
Have we got another question to wrap it up? Yes, gentlemen here.
A question really for Andrew. I just wondered how close did Greatest Show going to be completed council, and what sort of process, either planning or plan, helped actually convey
Well, the great thing about John was we were sort of insulated from this. We were aware that there's all kinds of crap going on. It was an asbestos scare, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's why we were out there. Yeah. So, but John. The great thing about John is he was resourceful. This was when he was at his best because you could always, get a pint out of a half-pint pot. And so I never really worried about it. I was worrying about the scripts. I assumed it's like you take a step and you assume there's going to be something there to step on, and there was. It was perfect. John just pulled it out of his hat. So I never doubted it. I never worried about that at all.
It was very, very close to being cancelled. I mean, to the point where John was inches away from having to cancel it. And then I think it was, the story is that I think somebody walked in and said, it's on the DVD, but somebody just walked in and at that moment said, what about the car park at Elstree or something? And
why don't we put it on?
yeah, exactly. And it was just, yes, we'll do it, without worrying, without thinking, well, how? So we had a few days off, as I remember, because they didn't really know what was going to happen. We rehearsed the stuff that was going to happen in studio at first, and then we found ourselves having a few days off. So then we only had a few days to film all this stuff in this flapping tent in the middle of the car park with the delivery lorries, with the aeroplanes going over. It really was very, very tricky. And despite that, everybody continued having a great time. Doing that final the showdown scene with a huge rig with Kirby's flying people, stringing Sylvester upside down and doing all the magic and all those sequences. I mean, it was extraordinary what we managed to fit into that short time. And in fact, I missed the read-through for the next story that we were shooting. It was Silver Nemesis read-through, because you were literally sort of going, right, you're on here now, and you just went and did that. Right, there's a read-through happening over in that building. Okay, Sophie, you can't do it, so we'll get the AFM to stand in for you. Okay, so of course it came to the first day of rehearsing for Silver Nemesis, and nobody knew who I was, and they all got very confused, because it was Lynn, the AFM, who'd been playing me, and Anton Diffring was very confused about that. He said, you're a stand-in, or you're... I don't know. And I said, no, I'm the actual... But who is this beautiful girl? Who's the AFM? I said, oh, thanks. Oh, and then he said to me, he was given a copy of Dragonfire to watch with Bonnie and me, and he said, and who was that girl who was screaming all the time? It was horrible! And he said, and Sophie, my God, you are so fat! Nice.
No, I just wanted to say about JNT that JNT was one of the last of a breed of producers, because this was a period in time when the BBC was changing very dramatically. A number of things that had happened with the breaking of the unions in the mid-80s, and it was changing. Previous to this period, the job of a producer had been, producers perceived that their job was to protect the production from the BBC. So their job was production, outward facing, to protect the production. Now that's not the case. Both contractually and culturally, producers now see themselves as representing the BBC to impose the will of the BBC upon the production. And that's been a profound cultural change in British television, which has had a lot of, I would regard as very negative effects. And JNT was one of the last of that breed of producers who perceived their role as protecting the production and the values and the cast and the crew from some of the strange arbitrary decisions of the of the institution.
And I think without that, we probably wouldn't be here today talking about the finished story.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Well, we're being wrapped up.
Can I just say one thing?